how it got started.
Yeah.
Actually, we premiered the show in 98. But we started, we went off on a writing retreat and took several days up there with no TV, no radio, no newspapers.
Yeah.
Of course, it was 10 years ago, so no internet.
Right.
And sat down. People ask sometimes after the shows how we went about writing it, but it was basically
Basically, we didn't know.
Yeah. So
we had no clue what we were doing.
We knew we wanted to tell Peter's story.
Right.
And so we basically just took every episode of his from the Gospels. Yeah. We put all those together, and I remember sitting there with a little laptop, and you had your guitar, and we were in a house, and you went off in one of the bedrooms, and we're writing, and I was typing away, trying to compile the story all in chronological order, I guess. And then I heard these amazing chords coming out of the bedroom. Yeah. And I tend to be pretty singular focused, and I was focusing on what I was writing, but I kept hearing this, and I finally walked up, went in the bedroom, and I said, "What is that? What do you got there?" And that was the first song out of the chute, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah. And it was, and I remember that I played the chorus, "You are the Christ, you are the Son of God,
yeah,
blessed Messiah."
Yeah.
You went down on your knees, and came the tears, which is not unusual. And then the first performance.
We had spent so much time just writing and rehearsing
that we did,
and running through the thing that we really hadn't planned much on the applause.
I was just hoping the show would come off.
Yeah.
I mean, I really did.
That it wouldn't be like a Mel Brooks movie, and the audience wouldn't be just staring at us,
stunned, yeah.
Well, standing there the first night, first song, we finished Peter's theme, dun 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 dun, boom, big ending. And the audience did not applaud politely, they cheered.
Yeah.
I remember the first show as being very exciting. We didn't know what to expect. The first applause, it just blew everybody away, and we just didn't know how to act then. I just went into that mode of entertainment and assurance that God was with it.
I remember turning and looking back over at the percussion, Tim Green with the timpanis. And I looked at Tim, and Tim just looked at me and went,
"Who knew?"
Who knew they were going to like it this
Tim,
much?
Yeah. Hey, tell about Neil Coomer, about how he came to be in the show.
Neil Coomer. Well, the beginning of it was Vonda, his sister.
So my sister Vonda introduced me to Danny and Gary.
She came up to you and said, "My brother sings and he's got a CD."
Yep.
And you thought to yourself,
everybody's brother sings and has a CD. I've got a stack of them on my desk like this, of the people that want to come sing,
So you made the call and invited him in, and he came in to sing for us, and he sang a couple of songs to tracks, which are ordinarily not my favorite, but oh my goodness, he's just such a singer,
And a great presence. Yeah.
Oh gosh, well, he just knocked the house down, as you might well expect. So Neil sits down next to me in the pew, and I leaned over and I said,
"Hey, have you ever done any theater?" My first thought was that I had, overdone it or something, and I was like, I've done some musicals in the past.
And I said, "Well, that's perfect." I said, "Well, Danny and I, are writing a show, and we'd love to have you sing the Simon Peter role." I know. I said, "You're just incredible."
My first thought was, oh yeah, everybody's written the show.
And he said, "Well,
he's such a nice, sensitive guy.
Yeah, I'll
He
think
would say,
about it."
"Oh, that's great. Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
Good for you. That's cool."
Yeah.
In the meantime, unbeknownst to us, he goes to his sister Vonda. Says,
"Vonda, you've got to get me out of this. Who knows what this will be like, and it may be horrible." And she was like, "Well, I don't know." And so we kept talking about it, kept dialoguing about it, and so I said, "All right, I'll give it a shot." Little did I know, 10 years later, we're still doing The Rock and the Rabbi.
We're awfully glad it worked out. He's been doing this role for 10 years with us, and knocking the house down.
What about some of the bloopers? funny things that
Bloopers.
happen.
The thing about it is, we had some people in the audience. It was just so perfect that some people thought we had planned it. But
Right.
there's no way in the world we or this crew could ever duplicate that
No,
again.
we would have missed the cue or something.
There's the scene in the show where I'm talking about the rich young man who walks up to Jesus and he's looking for advice. And the advice he gets is not the advice he wants. The advice he gets from Jesus is sell everything you have and give it all away,
Right.
you know. So this young fella has so much in material goods that he just can't handle that answer. So my line in the show is, I'll never forget his face. He looked at the rabbi in disbelief, and then he dropped his eyes and walked away. That's the line. In the dark, Gary Dodds is putting thimbles on his fingers to play the washboard for the song Wash Over All of Me, which is coming up in a couple of minutes. So he's putting his thimbles on. Right when I say he dropped his eyes, he drops 2, not 3, not 4. He drops 2 thimbles on that wooden floor, and we hear clink, clink, as they roll across the entire wooden stage floor.
And the audience was totally quiet because they were into the story at that moment.
They were into the story, but
Nobody
all
was-
of a sudden, it's amazing. 1,000 people, big hall, but they all heard that. And there was this pause, and everybody just sucked in their breath and held it for a minute. And I knew that if I just kept telling the story, everybody was going to giggle and snort through the rest of the show, you know. So I just stopped and did a little bit of a Johnny Carson, I guess. I just rolled my eyes back toward the back, and the audience just erupted. I remember looking back at Gary Dodds, and he just had his head down, like, don't look at me, man. Don't look at me.
And we got a really good recording, and I laugh at it more every time we hear it, but let's listen to it.
I'll never forget the look in that young man's face. He stared at the rabbi in disbelief, and then he dropped his eyes and walked away. Figuratively, he dropped his eyes, walked away.
So 10 years, here we are. Who would have thought? You know, when we first did the first show, I honestly, sincerely thought we would do it once or twice, and that would be it, and we'd go on to something else. I never dreamed that we'd be here, Tampa Bay Performing Arts Center, getting ready to do a 10-year anniversary show, and
Playing all over the country.
It's meant so much to me and my family. You know, we've grown up with it. I thank you, Gary, for partnering with me for 10 years.
Oh, thank you, bro.
It's been quite a ride, and of course, you know, we got a lot more ahead.
Yeah.
That we're privileged to be able to do. So, congratulations,
Oh.
10 years.
Well, back at you. You know, people ask us sometimes what it feels like to be backstage, you know, what it feels like to be walking out there. And I got to tell you, every single show, and especially tonight, I get to walk out on that stage and my thought's the same. We get to tell this Jesus story one more time.
Yeah, as though it's the last time.